Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beings, all beloved beings everywhere. So as you all know, I have not been feeling that well. We had a mishap with some medication that left me feeling pretty strange. In any event, I'm feeling better, but still not strong. So we may end class early this evening. It just depends on how I feel. Thanks for your understanding. We, of course, are studying the Holy Mother's life. And we're at this point. It is said in the scriptures, that person is free from injunctions and prohibitions, who walks on the path of Nirguna Brahman. Now, does that mean you have been fully realized? Well, even the fully realized, as we know from studying Adi Shankaracharya, have difficulties with these admonitions, injunctions, and prohibitions. There is still Saguna Brahman. There is still but they are free from them in the sense that they are no longer expected to do the rituals, and as Sri Krishna says in the Gita, their acts fall from them when they reach the heights of meditation. And so they may behave in such a way that we don't understand them very well. It is difficult for a free soul to follow the minute details of social customs and rules. Holy Mother always felt a natural attraction toward her humble thatched hut in Jairambati with its mud walls and floor. There was no running water, modern toilets, or paved roads in her village, but its air was clean and it was surrounded by trees and meadows. It seems that the mother sometimes got bored and tired of living confined within the four walls of Udbodhan House in Calcutta. She would sometimes say, "I feel like a caged bird." One of the main causes of her rheumatism was lack of physical movement, which started in Dakshineshwar when she lived like a caged bird. That was in the Nahabat, of course. Although Jairambati was infested with malaria and dysentery and lacked good food, medicine, and amenities of city life, she still pined for her native village. Or still she pined for her native village. Once the mother told Swami Arupananda, "You see here in Calcutta, railways move carefully and speak." What is that? I'm sorry. You see here in Calcutta, I always move carefully and speak cautiously because people get offended easily. I would rather live happily in Jairambati than in Calcutta. In Jairambati, I can say what is on my mind without reservations, and others reciprocate in the same way. Neither do they mind anything, neither do they mind anything, nor do I. There is no misunderstanding. But the people of Calcutta get hurt if words are used a little improperly. Ashutosh Mitra recorded an interesting incident. During the worship in Udbodhan, we heard the mother speaking to the master. Quote, "I understand that you like the Sandesh and Rashagolas of Calcutta and don't care for the plain food and water from the big pond of Jairambati." We knew that the mother was preparing to visit Jairambati, and her resolve would be her resolve would not be altered by anyone's request. End of quote. It is said that the master once told her, this Jairambati will ruin your life. And actually, the master's words came true when towards the end she contracted that Kala Azar there. It's a kind of deadly disease, blood disease. Holy Mother loved to be independent and self-reliant. She could not bear to be a burden to others. Before 1915, when her new residence in Jairambati was built, she lived with her brother's families when in Jairambati. She helped them financially and served them with much physical labor. She was never a burden to them. Rather, they became a burden to her. In fact, without her help, their households would have been in pitiable condition. She carried their burden till the end. Once she remarked, "I am paying their debt." But the master's disciples adored her and looked after her with great love and respect. They never took any advantage of her. The master told her to look after the people of Calcutta, so she lived in Calcutta and helped them spiritually. The disciples tried their utmost to make her life comfortable wherever she was. Although Udbodhan house was Holy Mother's home in Calcutta, she considered it to be an ashrama for the monks. As you can see, I'm having difficulty reading. Is there anyone else who would like to volunteer to read? Swayam, do you have the book open there with you?
Brother, I think Haima is volunteering, but she's muted. I don't have the book. Haima, we could not hear you. I
Oh,
think you have the
okay.
book.
I have the book, but if you would like to read, you
No,
have the book. Go.
I don't
Oh,
have the
okay.
book. Yeah, please
Okay.
read.
Okay. Brother Shankara, you want me to read the book?
Yes, please read slowly and clearly, and be
Okay.
prepared for me to interrupt you. And
Okay, sure.
before you begin, are there any comments or questions from anyone about the mother, her life in Calcutta, her life in Jairambati, the general condition of her life? Anything at all? All right, dears. Well, go ahead,
Okay, Brother Shankara. I
Haima,
will.
but as I said,
I
read
will read slowly.
slowly and clearly
Okay.
so that everyone understands.
Although Udbodhan House was Holy Mother's home in Calcutta, she considered it to be an ashrama for the monks. She made sure that her relatives and dependents did not inconvenience them. She may also have felt uncomfortable accepting service from the monks for long periods and went to Jairambati with her family and companions from time to time to give them a break. Swami Parameshwarananda described Jairambati during Holy Mother's time. At that time, Jairambati was also called Tentalmuri. There were only a few literate persons in Jairambati, and even they lived mostly in Calcutta or somewhere else. The condition of the village was very bad, and the roads were horrible. The main road passed through the middle of the village. There was a ditch in the road, and during the rainy season, the ditch filled with water and flooded the houses on the southern side of the village. The water level of the Punya Pakur and the road was the same. The road was so muddy that sometimes cows got stuck in it and people had to lift them up with bamboo poles.
Now, let's just stop there.
Sure.
This was Mother's home village. She loved to live there, but in many ways it was a mess. It flooded, was muddy. Cows had to be got unstuck from the mud. This shows the humanity of the mother. She loved her native village in spite of its inconveniences and its poor way of life. Few literate people, though Mother was not a well-educated woman. She was very literate and knew her scriptures and knew. So there was, but something about it made her feel free and not caged about. And I think it's very interesting that though there were many social conventions expected of a Brahmin widow in Jairambati, that the people there were less prone, less immediately willing to take offense as they were in Calcutta. So it's an interesting aspect of Mother's life that though she had this place in Calcutta and the master And it was built for her by Swami Saradeshananda. And the master told her to take care of the people of Calcutta, and told her that Jairambati would ruin her life. Still, she loved the independence and self-reliance of living in the village and didn't like to be dependent on the service of the monks there in Udbodhan, which, as it was pointed out, she regarded as an ashram. So is there any comment or question from anyone about those things? Anyone at all want to say anything from their own wisdom, from their own experience, from any question or doubt they may have? Okay.
I think most of the villages are similar to that, in India.
Well, this is
the
what
slight differences here and there. There were no roads, and potholes were, quite normal. Even in Bombay today, there are potholes. Bombay, big cities in India, like Bombay, Pune, roads are full of potholes and all. So
there are potholes in Atlanta.
yeah, so it's a normal thing.
Yes, but it was very difficult, especially during the rainy season.
Yeah, of
in
course.
Jairambati.
It is very, very bad in rainy season.
There were no municipal services in Jairambati. There was no municipality to look after flooding and these kinds of things. And you can imagine that ditch that ran through the center of town became quite nasty at times because of the filth flowing in the ditch. And the pond became unpleasant as well. But the villagers knew how to cope with it and coped with it. Anything else? Thank you, Sham. Anything else from anyone? Okay, Haima, read on.
Okay, Brother Shankara. Only the Banerjee family of the village tried to maintain their prestige and culture to some extent. There was only a little scope to learn reading and writing in the kindergarten school. Only 3 or 4 people had some kind of job. The rest lived by farming. There were factions and enmity among the villagers. Under such village circumstances, the mother lived with such a low profile that no one knew who she was. The villagers called her sister, aunt, or mother, and she loved them equally.
We're not hearing you, dear.
There were factions and enmity among the villagers. Can you hear me now, Brother Shankara?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Under such village circumstances, the mother lived with such a low profile that no one knew who she was. The villagers called her sister, aunt, or mother, and she loved them equally. Still, they disturbed her by demanding money under various pretexts. Even the leaders of the village would ask her for money during the public worship of the village.
Okay, let's just stop there.
Sure.
No one knew who she was. The villagers regarded her as she of course remained separate from these factions, but no one knew who she was. No one knew that the mother of the universe living in the world was with them in Jairambati. Only a few people recognized her at all. So the villagers did not understand why these city people came and gave her money and so on. But they were willing to ask her for that money, willing to make demands on her. And it's understandable. It's not a matter of judgment. They were very poor. As it was said, only 3 or 4 people had jobs. There was only one really prominent family, and the rest lived by subsistence farming. It didn't say subsistence, but that's what it was. From hand to mouth, depending on the rains and the seasons and the prosperity of the crops. Very difficult life. So anything for anyone to say, to add, to ask about any of that?
Namaste, Brother Shankara.
Yes, hello, Shailesh.
Sorry, I just joined, but I just want to make a comment. In India, the farmlands are very small because of the, it gets split over a period of time. And so they have very little income. And I, coming from a farmer's family, I know even to this day, some of my father's cousins, they absolutely have no cash. Even if they have farming going on like few acres, they have no cash. I mean, it is pathetic. Whenever I go, I will take all the groceries and some money I will give them. So if you look at 120 years ago or 100 years ago, I'm approximately almost 105. It's completely understandable that these are family people, they have kids and they have their wants and they want to satisfy the wants of their family so I am kind of sympathetic with these villagers here.
Well, yes, that's exactly what I was gesturing towards, Shailesh. Thank you for amplifying that and for defining it better. Yes, these people were not to be judged. Here was a woman, for no reason that they could understand.
Yeah.
People would come and give her money, leave her with what for them was large quantities of money. And it's true of rural villagers all around the world, that they have no cash. For example, in Bolivia, whole families, no one travels, no one goes to the city alone. An entire family will travel to the city, whether it be Sucre or La Paz, and to indicate they are gone, they simply put a stick across the door of their home, a very modest home, and they go to the city all together as what are generically called limoneros, because many of them sell produce, primarily lemons and oranges, limoneros. They also sell many other things on the side. To get a little cash to take back to the village so that they can buy kerosene and candles and sugar and things that they otherwise would not be able to buy. And they're very poorly thought of, third-class citizens indeed, if not fourth-class citizens, by the city people of Bolivia. And I'm sure that there was some of that. Also, we know that Ramakrishna's elder brother, went to the Kolkata because of his Brahmin background and his education. He came to Calcutta and also brought Sri Ramakrishna with him to try to earn some money for the family. So, though these people were not wretchedly poor and that they didn't have enough to eat most of the time, sometimes there were famines. It's easy to understand why they lived the way they did. They knew no other life, and so Holy Mother helped them. Thank you, Shailesh. Anything else from anyone? All right. You'll notice that my voice is not strong, and so Haima is reading for us. Anything else before she reads on?
Just, when I sit, I would listen and think, and puts things in perspective about what we have, and what we complain for trivial things.
Yes, the Master's and Mother's advent in the world, some people, including myself, believe that this is the result, that many, many, many more people, by this I mean billions more people, are living better than they did in the 1800s, the mid-19th century. It doesn't mean that things are wonderful. There are many people that are starving because of the maldistribution of our food. Bad, poor distribution. It's a monetized economy all over the world. So though many people are living better off, many people are still wretchedly poor and go hungry. Thank you, Swam.
But even people who have their like basic needs met still suffer and still don't know how to cope with life at times. And yeah, I guess that's.
Oh, yes, that's absolutely true. This is the nature of Maya. This is the nature of our ignorance. Sri Krishna says in the Gita, it's relatively easy to make a good living in this world if you turn your attention that way. And Swami Vivekananda said, first solve the problem of poverty, first bread, then football, then learn how to play the game of life in a masterful way. And this applies to every one of us, not just poor villagers. We must learn to solve the problem of taking care of ourselves, our bodies, and our needs. In sociology, it's known as Maslow's, M-A-S-L-O-W, Maslow's hierarchy. And then, of course, the basic needs, the bottom of the pyramid, is food, clothing, and shelter. Then we go up the hierarchy and we encounter the more sophisticated aspects of life. But you're right, Aaron. Many, 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 many people have not solved those things for themselves, even though it's easier than they may think.
And actually, interestingly, sorry to interrupt, but I was just thinking Ram Dass had said when he visited India, he noticed that people in the slums of India were happier than people in America who were way better off than, infinitely better off than.
Yes, happiness is a condition of spirit, not a condition entirely of life. Of course, when you're living wretchedly, it's very difficult when you don't have enough to eat and you can't feed your children and so on. But happiness is a quality of spirit. If you want to know more about what's meant by that, there are talks in our archives on the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, Balshem Tov, and how it is that happiness is a matter of the quality the spirit, not the. But it's very difficult, as has been pointed out over and over again, very difficult to have religion on an empty stomach. So the third aspect of Swami Vivekananda's teaching, first bread, then football, then the Gita. And that is that wonderful book, Divine Grace by Swami Ranganathananda. Though he doesn't mention Vivekananda or that teaching by name, that's exactly what it's all about. And it is a masterful talk on those three aspects. Thank you, Aaron. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
I came across this short, like a 5-line poem, like what you call Tonka, in one of my blog readings. It goes like this: why are you unhappy? Because 99.9% of everything you think and of everything you do is for yourself. And the punchline is, and there isn't one.
Yes. Yes. Would you please read that again? That was the topic of last Sunday's talk, selflessness.
Yes. So it says, why are you unhappy? Because 99.9% of everything you think and of everything you do is for yourself, dash, and there isn't one.
Yes. So our fascination with this false self, as Krishna points out, the first 6 chapters of the Gita are something that we all should read. We should read the entire Gita, of course, but one should start with chapter 2. Start with chapter 1 if they want to see what it is that Arjuna is complaining about. But particularly chapters 2 through 6. Sri Krishna just says, you're deluded. And this delusion is something created by Maya, by the gunas. So do your best to overcome your delusion and live sacramentally. Live to the extent that you can, selflessly. Because this thing of this small self, as the punchline says, there isn't one. And if you want to know how deeply true that is, just think about the death of the body. Everything that you have involved yourself with, everything in terms of time, space, and causation is left behind. You have only the mental impressions of what was there. But that's everything associated with that small self has been left behind. There isn't one. It's just a phenomenon of time, space, and causation. Thank you, Swayam. Very aptly remarked on. How are we doing?
Another small addition I would say is that the 99% of the thoughts we have is about what we want and what we don't have. So
Yes.
It's okay being selfish, but if I think continuously about what I have and what I have got, then probably that problem will reduce significantly.
Well, that's if we have this is part of the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov that I mentioned. If we have gratitude for what we have, if we take that attitude of gratitude, how grateful I am for what I have, then happiness is accessible to us. but not necessarily otherwise.
I've personally had an extremely very, very difficult month. It's like I'm in this day in particular has just been kind of come to a head, and it's been a really bad day. And I had this moment where I was just ungrateful for everything today. And I mean, but I mean, we all have those moments, you know.
Oh yes, we do indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time, I get my hands full dealing with, Naveen's mom with dementia, after a point, it's just impossible to to be selfless.
For those moments, yes, it is impossible. So we just offer those moments as well as all the others to the divine presence. As Sri Krishna says, live sacramentally, offer everything, even your dejection, even your anger, even your worries, all of this. Just think, oh Lord, this is not mine, this is yours. And I know it's difficult. It's constantly difficult. But if we can do it, even just a little, as Sri Krishna says, it will save us from the terrible wheel of rebirth and death.
Oh, it's absolutely reassuring to know that we can offer everything to God. I mean, I do that a lot.
Yes.
And yeah.
Well, we can complain or we can offer. And if we complain, then offer the complaints as well. Sri Ramakrishna would complain. Holy Mother would complain. All human beings. As St. John of the Cross said about the relationship with the divine, it is not we who should ask his forgiveness. It is he should ask forgiveness of us. And that's a very, very profound statement to meditate on. It is not we who should ask his forgiveness. He should ask forgiveness of us. Anything else from anyone before we go on?
Yes, I just wanted to say that was very beautiful and well said. Thank you, Brother Shankara.
You're most welcome, dear. I'm glad that it's all here to happen this way. And I know there are difficult times. Oh, God, do I know. So, anyone else? Thanks to all of you who've spoken up. All right, let's read on a bit more. Ima, thank you.
Okay, sure, Brother Shankara. Are you all able to hear me? Just want to make sure everybody is able.
I can hear you
Yes.
now. You could be a little closer to the microphone or
Okay.
turn it up just a little.
Okay. Just to make sure. Nowadays, one can go from Vishnupur to Jairambati within an hour by car or bus, but it was not easy to travel to Jairambati during Holy Mother's time. When the train service connected to Vishnupur, Holy Mother would take an overnight train from Calcutta to Vishnupur and then travel the final 28 miles by bullock cart.
Now just think about that. 28 miles.
Yeah.
I mean, riding in a bumpy bullock cart with her attendants walking along beside her. 28 miles. We think now 28 miles is a marathon. It was something that was in every month or every 2 months occurrence for these people. And
8 months.
mother could ride in the bullock cart, but her attendants could not. Okay.
28 miles by bullock cart, which took 10 to 12 hours. In the early days, she had no devotees in Vishnupur, so she would halt near Lalband Lake, and her attendants would cook some food for her in a roadside inn. In 1909, Swami Sadananda, a disciple of Vivekananda, stayed for a couple of months in the house of Sureshwar Sen in Vishnupur. Sureshwar, his brother Boshishwar, and the entire family became ardent followers of Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. From 1911 onward, Holy Mother usually rested in the Sen family's home during her journey to Jairampati. Ramakrishna once told her, "Hello, Vishnupur is a hidden Vrindavan. You must see it." At that time, the mother did not realize that she would have to pass through Vishnupur many times. So she said, "I am a woman. How can I see that place?" The master replied, "No, my dear, you will see it." One day, the mother visited the Sarvamangala temple on the bank of the Lalband and then exclaimed, "Truly, the master's words have come true today." It was a tedious journey to cover the final distance from Vishnupur to Jairambati. Bullock carts were constructed of bamboo strips. The driver spread some hay on the cart to cover the bamboo strips, and the passengers spread a blanket or a cotton sheet over the hay. There was a canopy over the cart, and the passengers sat or lay down in the shade with their luggage. The bullock cart moved slowly over the undulating, unpaved road with a constant jerking motion.
Now just imagine that.
That's how.
Just imagine that. This was the most convenience that could be had, to go for 28 miles. A jerking, bouncing, uncomfortable bullock cart. And yet still mother would prefer to make that journey from Vishnupur to Jairambati, that 28 miles, because of her preference for living in that condition, that village condition. What a thing. Okay, go ahead.
When Holy Mother traveled, she and her attendants stopped along the way to cook food at roadside inns or drink water from ponds. During these breaks in the journey, Holy Mother rubbed her knees with a little mustard oil to get some relief from rheumatic pain. Beginning in 1911, the mother made Kolpara another halting place between Vishnupur and Jairambati. There her devotees built Jagadamba Ashrama for her. Once when Yoginma was going to Jairambati with Saradananda, she remarked, "Look, it is easier to go to Gaya and Varanasi than to come to Jairambati." Saradananda gravely replied, Is Jayrambati a less holy place than Gaya and Varanasi?
Now that is really quite a remarkable thing. Gaya and Varanasi, of course, are well known as holy footprints of the divine being. But it's Jayrambati is also a very holy place because of the mother's birth and residence there. Anything else from anyone about that? How are we doing for time?
We have 12 minutes.
Well, I tell you, dears, I'm weary.
Okay,
It's
we'll stop there.
it's 8:48,
Yes.
and so this business, I'm under daily treatment and concern by the cardiologist, and things are getting better, but there's still lack of strength and tiring easily. So that's why we're going to break it off here.
So, Brother Shankara, is this because of the adjustment of the medications?
Well, yes, there was a medication tried that I fall into I fall into this narrow group of people for whom this using this medication creates a crisis. And that's what happened. And I'm still recovering from that. And it's a slow recovery. The particulars are not a matter of concern except to the cardiologist. And he's on it. I mean, literally daily. I'm in touch with him by telephone and text every day. And so he's, in any event, it was a well-meaning attempt to improve the situation that I fell into one of those categories of side effects that made it not auspicious. So,
As always, we'll pray for your health, Brother Shankara.
We sure will.
and from here, prayers for yours and your well-being. So we'll leave it at that. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. May you be safe. May we all be safe. May we all be healthy. May we all be cheerful. May we all have peace of mind. May the Divine Being as our Mother and Father continue to look after us, protect us, nourish us as the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. So there's no weariness about the work from here. It continues to be a joy and a blessing. And so, and his name is Pandya. Those of you of Indian heritage will know the meaning of that name. It comes from a very illustrious and auspicious family. The other doctor that is involved in this is Dr. Goswami. Those of you who know those things will know about the meaning of that as well. And the third player, with whom I will speak by phone on the 30th, this coming Thursday at 9:30 a.m., is Dr. Iravanian, who's from, he says, from Persia. He's part of that Armenian community that fled to Iran in 1918, but then after the Shah was deposed, those people were no longer welcome in Iran either. So many of them came to Canada and the United States. Dr. Iravanian is a cardiologist who specializes in the electrical aspects of the heart. And so he'll tell me what, if anything, is auspicious and suitable to keep this machine functioning as best as possible on Thursday. And of course, I will let you know about that in the newsletter, which should come out that day. Any comments or questions from anyone? All right, dears. Until we can hope that tomorrow night there will also be a class. And so may you all be, as that prayer says, safe, healthy, cheerful, and in the mother's loving.
I will be very happy to read if you want me to tomorrow, Brother Shankara. I have that book.
Okay, very good. We'll look forward to that. All right then. Good night, dears.
Good
Night.
night. Thank you, Brother
May you
Shankara.
all have
Thanks,
peace of
everybody.
mind. May we all have peace of mind.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night, dears.